Lotringer, but I've stayed away, and I see now why I was lucky only to meet him 2 years ago, or last year, so to speak. Must be a bad boy at this time. You know. The new school obviously did not appreciate this kind of aesthetics. But it is certainly, if you live long enough, then even this kind of private, with very little money and all the, the negatives you can say about this kind of art movies, become witness to a certain style and a time. And I think you're right, not to hide it, just bring it forward now and leave it on its own. And saying, look guys, I'm no longer the person there, but I'm not going to badmouth me 30 years ago, something like that. So I think, yes, and I think especially strong is because this is done before music videos. Music videos change the aesthetics. There was so much power of money behind that. And so many talents went into that and changed our way of looking at things, you know. My favorite movie is Natural Born Killers, you know, that was the aesthetics which came after this, you know, which they allowed you to be so fast. And so, but then it became, as you know now, also kind of a witness dated in its own right. These music videos cannot really help us now. So you now are trying to have alternatives to it, and you have this return of the real, that's what we are called it, is what you show is the real has always been there. So even if these people are pathetic in some ways, but who is not pathetic in a certain way. So that's not really the point that the big artists doing the living as dominatrix and I admitted once a dominatrix to the school, you see, she should be graduate and she has now a PhD and she teaches at universities and she's quite good. So, now dominate your student instead of this poor suckers with their life stories. No, but but I know, and what I really want to know, and what you did in your class, you became a writer after that. And before that, already you used your connection to Sylvere, it's just my guess, you used to come up with a poetry series only for women, or at least for I would like to know a little bit more about that. If you think that this was a development, I'm not talking about progress.
Oh, you're talking about the native agent series
right.
of Semiotext.
Yes.
Yeah, you could say that I used my connection with Sylvere to promote certain women that I liked, and I did.
Right.
But you could also say that I came up with an empirical analog to the theories of subjectivity that he was publishing in French theory. And that became what we chose to say about the native agent series. You know, when Sylvere and I met, he was doing Semiotext. They started Black Books in the mid-80s, the early 80s. They hadn't published one woman, and Sylvere's reason was that all the women in France were doing psychoanalysis. He wasn't interested in psychoanalysis. And my friends were the writers. I had worked with the St. Mark Poetry Project, and at that time there were people like Kathy Acker was not that well known, Myles. These people who would really benefit from the legitimacy because theory at that moment had a tremendous currency in the art world. And I wanted to sort of import some of that legitimacy and share it with these writers and give people a new way to talk about this fiction, which I still think is completely valid and legitimate because it was not, you know, these people are not writing memoir. It's a different kind of eye. And so the Native Agent series in its first round became about promoting a public female eye that was not a memoir eye, you know, an introspective eye, that was more an adventure story eye, you know, that it could be a universal eye moving through the world that happened to be female, which still is extremely rare.
But I've seen that although some of them were male.
Well, yeah, I mean, there always have to be exceptions, right?
That's good. No, then I liked it. I saw your emphasis, obviously, but you made a few exceptions in there. But was it something connected to your own? Was it a service to your fellow writers? Or was it something, because have you written poetry at the time?
No.
You're a prose person.
Nothing. I wasn't writing anything at all.
Writing is when you were raising children. What did you do?
Well, I was making these movies.
Yeah, after these movies.
Oh, after the movies, I made Battery and Base, the feature film.
85.
And then 95. And in 94, I started the writing that became Out of Dick. And then once I published I Love Dick, that was it. You know, and I wrote 4 more books in 10 years.
Good, good. Just wanted to see. Could you, is there a way from seeing this movie and then saying there is a past, and no, it is just the accident of life? Or would you say yourself there is a kind of clear connection, because I don't know your writings. Are your writings like this book? I don't think so, otherwise you would not be so successful.
Well, how unkind.
It's just a guess. Yes, you know, I'm forced now to read you. I know. Okay, please, there was a question.
Well, I would like to answer that,
okay, please.
if I may. I do think that there is a great similarity between what I do in the movies and what I did as a writer when I started to write. The movies, I really see watching them. I don't think they're so horrible watching them now, and I see why there might be some interest in them. I think they're essays, you know, and that's probably why they were not very popular at the time, because they didn't use a lot of, you know, theoretical language, so they didn't sort of seem to be in the theory world, and yet they were a little too top-heavy with ideas to fit in with the sort of Nick Zed, East Village, blood and gore and porn world. Always in the movies, I was conflating 2 or 3 strands of material, and the meaning was occurring in the edit. You know, that's what I was looking for, the confluence that would bring out some contradiction in the edit and bring things together. So when I started writing fiction, it's not the same, my books aren't like that, but a lot of things come in and out of the text. And in my first books, I would deal very explicitly, sometimes with ideas and with theoretical material as it came up in reference to something that I was living or that I was witnessing. So, yeah, we're not dissimilar.
So in your mind, right, in your mind, there's just a change of medium, so to speak, but not a change of spirit.
Yeah, I felt like, you know, the films were obviously too dense and obscure and nobody was getting it. And I needed to try and do it a different way, a more direct way, and writing seemed to be the most direct way of doing it. Plus, you're not depending on like hundreds of people as I was in the feature film.
I can see that. Good. Okay. Ryan, is it on your hair or do you have a question?
No, I was just going to say, it's not so much a question, it's just a request. You know, in class, obviously, we've learned you certainly don't exclude gender or sexuality, you know, but so that, you know, that's one thing.
Okay, hang on, I'm sorry, I'm hearing impaired and I'm
Oh no, I can speak louder.
Go closer.
Right.
Yeah, no, I'm saying, you know, as we learn in class, you obviously don't exclude gender or sexuality from, you know, the way, the motivation for your writing or where it goes. But I was interested in this, from where you got the idea of the writers that you're getting the stories from, and then your interpretations of them, your relation to the city, like Paris in the 19th century, New York in the 80s. Is there something you could say about your relation?
Oh, they were just my favorite books.
And your relation to the city and to the life of the city at that point. That because you show a lot of images of, you make reference to Front Street and Fulton, and you show the bridges. And is this a part of it, or?
Well, I mean, in that movie, the footage of the city was really important because it was like every time there was a crime scene documentation, it would become like this sort of act of public mourning in an otherwise really anonymous public space. You know, most of these people, these were kind of drug murders. These were not people whose, the murders were not being highly investigated. And so the crime scene documentation became like this marking of all of these kind of, isolate atomic units moving through the city. That was what I really felt when I looked at the